All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for a very special edition of 2 Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. Today's edition has our hat to the back because the end is near. I can smell it. It's in the air. It's wafting. Donald Trump is going down, ladies and gentlemen. It is so bad that Pam Bondi is faking an illness so she doesn't have to speak at a human trafficking conference, right? This is going on while the number 2 guy, Donald Trump's former lawyer, who should have recused himself but didn't, is now having a conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell. That was happening earlier this afternoon. What is going on here, folks? But here's what's going to end it all and bring the Epstein files out, and we will see all the mentions, all the acts of John Doe 174. The House Oversight Subcommittee voted 8-2 to subpoena the Epstein files. Hand them over. Pam Bondi. Game, set, match, end of presidency. I'm joined by our senior political analyst, Brockton Ellis, with a look at what's happening today. Another explosive day. Ghislaine Maxwell down there handling the business and pushing for a new trial. They don't want a new trial, right, Brock? Because more evidence is going to come out. We got to open up the files in order to have a new trial. This is over, bro. As soon as these files come out, it is over. He's going to have to step down.
Okay, first of all, you downgraded me from the uptown point guard to a political analyst.
Oh, you're a senior political analyst. That's a step up.
But I do want to play this clip for you, clip 3, because I think it's important. And this is when Donald Trump was asked about this Jeffrey Epstein birthday letter. And he was asked about it yesterday. And we've learned that this letter does exist, that Donald Trump did write this letter to Jeffrey Epstein. It is sitting somewhere, and Donald Trump was asked about it, and listen to him. It's almost like the excuse that he makes of the dog ate my homework. Listen to this.
Did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday.
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside?
Right across the street from Lafayette Park, sir, towards 15.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, everything is fake. Obama made up the letter. Maybe he wrote the letter. Joe Biden and Barack Obama created the Epstein files. If they did get the letter to Epstein on his birthday, Donald Trump didn't write it. It was somebody else that wrote it. I mean, it really is absolutely insane. Let's get into a little bit more specifics with you, if I may. Yeah. Obviously, we have, whether you want to call it a humanitarian issue or what have you, there's a lot of children and adults that are dying in Gaza because they don't have food. They have food insecurity, and it appears as though the Israeli government certainly has a lot to do with that. I would imagine you don't condone that, right?
I don't condone innocent civilians suffering during war. Of course not. And again, I don't know of anyone who does that. Who does condone and support the deliberate starving of people. My contention, and this is where I would imagine we would disagree, is I've been to the Kerem Shalom border crossing. I have family in the Israel Defense Forces. I have friends, Muslim friends, Jewish friends, Christian friends who are serving in Gaza at the moment. There is no deliberate mass starvation of the Palestinian people. On the contrary, more aid has gone into Gaza post-October 7th than pre-October 7th. If Israel was trying to starve the Palestinian people, then why would they invest hundreds of millions of dollars into the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation? I mean, I know Reverend Johnny Moore personally, who oversees that operation. It's an incredibly difficult job. It's incredibly thankless because you're trying to feed innocent civilians, whereby the dictatorial theological regime of Hamas is trying to capitalize and hijack the starvation of Palestinians by shooting indiscriminately at these aid sites, by stealing the aid that has routinely come into Gaza. And I agree with Piers, and I don't know your show, but I imagine you've stated this previously, how come journalists aren't allowed in? I would agree with you. I want you, and I want Piers, and I want CNN to see what I have seen, to go to the Kerem Shalom border crossing so they could see the...
Why are they not allowing journalists, though? What do you think their reasoning could be behind that? Because I agree with you, but I don't understand why. Why are they doing that?
Sure. So two ways of answering it. First of all, they are allowing some journalists in. So yesterday, for example, the Israel Foreign Ministry did allow a select group of journalists who I'm sure you probably saw. You could search on Twitter images of it. NBC affiliates were allowed in, and they were able to see the pallets of literally mountains of food and baby formula and medicine that are basically just wasting away because the World Food Program and the UN RWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, refused to allow the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to take that food and distribute it themselves. The UN said either we do it ourselves or you're not allowed to touch it. So I agree, you should be able to see that. In terms of why, it's basically two reasons. One, standard military rule, and this is true of the UK, it's true of France, it's even true of the United States. Standard military rule do not allow journalists access into active war zones. It just is not a thing. Now, there could be exceptions. So, for example, some journalists on certain conditions were able to go to the Ukrainian front lines, but it's not a given because the objective of a war is to win the war. It's not really to allow journalists to feel good and to tell the story. It's to win a war. But still, I agree with you. In many cases, journalists should be allowed in. The second argument that I would imagine the Israeli government is not allowing journalists in is because if individuals like Piers Morgan, who are already saying that Israel is indiscriminately killing innocent civilians and they're indiscriminately killing journalists, and then when you put a journalist in an active war zone in a very dense urban environment where the enemy combatant don't even wear uniforms of a military, they wear civilian clothing, and then inadvertently a journalist is killed. Well, you can imagine what the audiences in the Western world would say. Israel is once again indiscriminately targeting journalists. So Israel probably took the attitude of, we just don't want to take that risk to begin with, because again, the objective is to win the war. But again, I agree. I think certain journalists should be allowed in. There's no reason why Piers Morgan should not be allowed to see the mountains of food that is just wasting away because the UN, in their bureaucracy, to put it mildly, is refusing to allow other agencies to distribute.
Would you also agree with me that an innocent Palestinian child killed is just as bad as an innocent Israeli child killed, or for that matter, any innocent person in Israel or Gaza? Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, of course. I haven't heard the argument to the contrary. In fact, as a religious Jew, the Talmud is quite clear at the end of what's called the Tractate of Horios, which is a tractate of the Talmud. It actually is very clear that we don't know whose blood is redder than the other. So certainly any innocent life is a tragedy.
So I'm trying to understand this then, because we seem to agree. Why is it that you think you're attacked so much? I mean, I saw you on Piers Morgan the other day. You were called, for lack of a better term, you were called a bitch. You were sworn at, you were yelled at, you were screamed at. You seem to have some pretty reasonable views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why do you think you are attacked so much, my friend?
That's something you need to ask Anna Kasparian and Gideon Levy and people on the very far left. I've been called in the last couple of days a Nazi. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your show.
No cursing, but that's okay.
Sorry, but I've been called very nasty things. I've received death threats, multiple death threats since the Piers Morgan appearance. I get that this issue animates a lot of people emotionally. We hate to see innocent life being spilled. The problem is that's a consequence of starting a war, and unfortunately, in all war, innocent life is being spilled. But in terms of like the name calling, it's really sad. And as I think I said on Piers Morgan's show, I grew up on the far left. I actually made a YouTube account when I was in 8th or 9th grade, specifically to subscribe to the Young Turks, because Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian were quite influential in my political upbringing, and to actually meet them, or at least virtually meet them in real life, and to see the vitriol and the hatred is really sad, and it's difficult on a personal level, because I certainly respected them, and to just be called names and be sworn at, that's not going to get us to a long-lasting just peace. It's a way that you can get clicks on social media. Anna's obviously doing quite well on Twitter. That clip of her calling me the B word has gone pretty viral. But unfortunately, that's just the media that she has normalized, accepted, and celebrated. I certainly do. I hope that someone double my age as well. Evidently, she
I denounce it, and I don't know why she
Fryktelig
went after
handling.
you like that. Obviously, you don't want innocent people to die anywhere,
Skal vi
whether
se
it's
om det er
Gaza
mange
or
som
Palestinians or Israelis. We all want this
støtter
war to end.
amerikanske bedrifter i
I'm not here
dag.
to attack. I'm just here to get the facts. And you
En,
seem to agree with a lot of things that Brian
tre.
said. That
Det er
you're
faktisk
against
tre
all
som ikke
immigrants being
boykotter
deported.
McDonald's.
You're
Det er
against
dårlig gjort. Dere må boykotte McDonald's.
But you kind of like
Nei,
moving at
men
a
få inn og
time.
handle litt på
And then you
Carrefour.
kind of, I don't know if you know, but
Kanskje
you
til og med litt
blow
på
away the
fôret.
fact that he had
Et
dinner with a
vindusbilde
Nazi.
væske kan
You
være
blow
godt å
away the
ha.
fact that the
Og
KKK
så drar vi
endorsed
videre
him.
etterpå.
You blow away the fact that the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys endorse him. So I want to ask you a question, Cyrus. I want to ask you one question, very simple, and I don't want to hear a slogan. And I'll hang up and listen to your answer. What do you, what policies do you like about Donald Trump? And I don't want to hear slogans.
I
Thanks
think-
for the opportunity.
Thank you.
think-
Thank you, Mark.
I think that some people voted for him not because they liked his policies, but because they wanted a better candidate for 28. Because they knew that, well, that 20 candidate we had last year wasn't as good, so it's better to just make sure she doesn't win, and then we get a better candidate, and we may be better off long run. I think that was part of the logic. See, not every Trump supporter is the same. There's different shades of red. I think there are some people who are light pink. So I think that
Do you have policy? I think he had asked you, what are the policies you like?
Well, like I said, just like I said, Pierce Morgan brought up the border apprehensions much down. I think that is, that is the record, that is the data. I can't say that data is a lie. So I have to give him credit where it's due.
Even though people are not getting due process in this country.
Like I said, I have to look at every case. I have to see what's going on. I cannot comment on something just because somebody tells me something.
Well,
I have to look at what's going on.
The Trump administration has admitted that they've sent people to El Salvador prisons because they had tattoos. And they believed without those people getting any due process.
But I think that heart of my issue is I want to audit and fine every employer who's hiring these people, at least in sectors that Americans want jobs, because not every sector is the same. And I think that we should know who they are.
Donald Trump has done that. We know who he is. He's hired illegal immigrants.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I think that happened in the 80s. I'm not surprised.
But he still did it. He still did it.
Everybody should get fined regardless.
Okay.
I'm pissed off at Wall Street, hedge funds. That's where my anger is.
You think illegal immigrants that are working in this country is a bigger issue than all the gun violence we have in this country, or 15 million people that are going to be losing their Medicaid? I mean, you think that's
a very excellent question. It's a very excellent question. My biggest issue is that our country has been hijacked by a corporate cartel.
Okay.
The financial system, this globalist policy has not worked for the American people. And I believe immigration has been hijacked, like every other issue, to basically serve their benefits. And by the way, I think a lot of these lobbies, they can't.
I'm going to be honest with you. The people that you were sitting next to in this Jubilee thing, I find much more dangerous to the United States of America than the overwhelming majority of undocumented immigrants that are in this country that want a better life for themselves and their family. Why you're not more concerned about some of those people?
Well, you just have to research them, see if they have criminal records or violent tendencies.
I mean, they're defending Nazism. Okay. The overwhelming majority of per capita, you have a better chance, a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than you do an undocumented immigrant. Don't those people...
I'm not surprised, but they do have a higher crime rate than legal arrivals. Legal arrivals versus non-legal. So there's still a difference.
Per capita, if you're undocumented in this country, you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than an undocumented immigrant, which means...
I've seen the data.
Yeah.
I've seen the data.
So the idea that these people
But the legal arrivals, that's what I was getting to. But there's two reasons that bothers me.
No, that's not the legal arrivals. If you're undocumented in this country, you still have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen. Those are the stats put forth by the FBI.
I'm a foreign-born that came in legally.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
understood.
So there's two reasons why it concerns me. The hedge funds, private equity, I believe that it's being done for their interest. And this leads me to my other point. I run an urban planning organization because my top issue in America is not not immigration. It's two things that I dislike about America. America has lost its family structure, its gender roles and everything else.
Can I ask you about
that? Decline of marriages, birth rates.
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
I believe you're being genuine with me when you care about family structure. You know where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah.
You care about family structure, which, by the way, I do as well. I'm with
It's natural. We need to
Okay.
keep reproducing.
But if you care about family structure, then why would you vote for the guy that's cheated on every single woman he's ever had? He had unprotected sex
how
with
do
a
you
porn
know
star.
look.
How do I know? He paid Stormy Daniels $130,000. He bragged about sexual assault. He bragged about.
He has issues, but I want to get to my other
But
point.
hold on, you care. Hear me out, Cyrus. I'm not trying to attack you on this. You're bringing up family structure, and I hear this from Republicans all the time. The nuclear
Because
family.
that's not really so much of a political issue. That's a cultural issue. The mass media is responsible.
But the leader of
decades.
your leader of your party is a serial cheater and abuser.
That's too bad, and I should condemn that. But let me get to my other point, because I run a local chapter of an urban planning organization. We have chapters around the world. Where America really disgusts me is its urban planning system.
Okay.
We can't get around without cars in most places. Most homes are really close together here in Las Vegas and much of the country. We have a situation where car travel has its downsides. We can't walk down the street to do our errands like we used to in the old cities. You go to other countries, especially in the older areas.
You care about our roads. You care about our roads. You care about construction. You care about bridges. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And our urban planning is a disaster. And I think until we fix the situation, we should not bring people into our country.
What did Donald Trump say back in the 2016 election when he was president for 4 years about a bipartisan infrastructure bill? What did he say?
I don't remember.
He said he was going to do it. What happened?
Don't remember.
He didn't do it. You know who did? Joe Biden. He put together a bipartisan infrastructure bill, something that Donald Trump promised he would do for the American people. And if we want to talk about promises and you care about it,
I will give him credit for the Bright Line train.
Well, I mean, he put together the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and Trump was the guy that said he was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it.
Where we need to go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And your man is on the run. Donald Trump had a meltdown today on the White House lawn just before he headed out, running over to Scotland. And then after his meltdown, he proceeded to go ahead and promote his golf course in his resort over in Scotland. Now, the Scots are none too pleased to see this clown coming. They can't stand him over there. They don't want him there. And I'm surprised with 34 felony convictions, he's going to be allowed to land in their territory. So we'll see what happens. But he's going over there to golf. Talked about some meetings they might have. Who knows? I mean, if you're a world leader, what are you doing meeting with Donald Trump? What, you're going to have some silly tariff meeting that he's going to try to charge you out the yin-yang? Yeah, I don't think so. We need to tally up his golf trips, because he talked about President Obama's golfing. Nobody plays more golf than Donald Trump. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I'm the greatest golfer ever. Joined by my partner in crime, Brock Canellis, with a look at what's going on again today. Trumpstein is the scandal. Brock, he can't get away from it. He's trying. He's running to Scotland. I know this trip wasn't on the calendar. So where's he going?
5 day trip, right? Which is pretty long outing. What always kind of now starts to amaze me is how gloves off foreign citizens are, right? Like, he was just getting basted and mocked in the newspapers.
My God, they're
so
killing
this trip is they hate him over there because they think his golf course, he's lied about shit, and you know the real estate deal that he did, was basically typical Trump. He lied. He fucked with the environment. He did all kinds of shit that pisses them off. But yeah, you're right. He can't run away from the Epstein thing. I thought one of the funnier backdoor mockeries of Trump was how the South Park guys somehow did the deal with Paramount, who had just fired Colbert to get their deal confirmed. Their deal got confirmed, and then they sign up South Park, and the South Park guys just roasted Trump last night.
Hilton.
And, yeah, so he is just being the mockery, and they do say that the way to take down authoritarians is through comedy and to poke the hole in their veneer. It's sort of why in China, Xi Jinping doesn't allow them to call him like Winnie the Pooh anymore, right? Because of the mockery, and it chips away at their strength. But yes, South Park went hard.
In the paint.
So Trump is a punching bag right now.
Oh, yeah.
Not that changes the dynamic, the power dynamic yet, but it chips away at the strongman image, and it helps move people away from him. So, I was a little less, I was really skeptical yesterday when you told me he's going down. I'm 2 steps less skeptical today, because when I see that kind of mockery, and when the mockery becomes like a big story. The South Park thing became as big a story as anything Trump was trying to say today, right? Like he got trumped by comedy.
Right. And think about it, Brock, as the week has gone on, let's go back and look at the week in review. As the week has gone on, his lies have become more and more outlandish, right? Today he's throwing Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard, under the bus, right? Talking about him living with Epstein, right? Larry Summers is going to come and slap him with a lawsuit. He's definitely going to hit him with a lawsuit for defamation. And he's throwing President Clinton under the bus. And he's got a list, he says, of about 100. I got a list of 100 names. I'm going to give them all.